The calendar says it's spring, but here in southeast Michigan, it's 37 degrees, gray, overcast, windy. You can't tell it's the end of March here. But today here on 10-Minute Test Drive and Rumblestrip.net, we're going to have a look at a Family Truckster. We're going to have a look at the refreshed 2013 Chevy Traverse. The Chevy Traverse is the large crossover from, obviously, Chevrolet. 6 or 7 passengers. In this configuration that we have in for review for a couple days, we have the 6 passenger. The middle row is a pair of captain's chairs, then the bench in the back row for 3 people. You could fit large children and younger adults back there. As far as full-size adults, it's a little tight back there for a grown person back there. But one of the things that's interesting for us in looking at this is, even though this is, a crossover vehicle and maybe would compare more with the, say, Ford Explorer, our recent experience in the Flex leads us to use that more as a comparison, just because that is yet another 6 and 7 passenger family truckster ride. And the pricing on them is actually pretty similar. Now, what we have here is an LTZ package with all-wheel drive, 3.6 liter V6, and, in general, as a family truckster, it does a good job. However, relatively speaking, especially when we're going to spend some time talking about the interior on this car, or on this vehicle, I guess, technically, we're going to draw some comparisons and really focus in on a couple things, both good and bad, that Chevrolet is doing here, and especially at a $46,000 price tag for this particular car. I guess first and foremost, how does it drive? It drives pretty well. I mean, it's a family truckster, okay? There's nothing performance about this. It gets on the highway just fine, accelerates up to speed. It is quiet on the highway. We've driven it extensively on the highway and are very happy with the lack of road noise and sound that comes through. You can have a conversation in a normal tone of voice. It's quite nice. The ride is very comfortable. It's not wallowy where you hit bumps and you think you're on the living room sofa. I mean, it's not firm. It's well controlled, I guess, is the best way to say it, and that's nice. They've done a good job as far as tuning that over some of the frost heaves now that we're getting. Now that winter is theoretically on its way out and it's supposed to be warming up, the ground's thawing a little bit, and we get all of our potholes and frost heaves in the road here in Michigan. It rides over them very nice. There's no abrupt jarring that comes through into the cabin and into the vehicle. So that is also well done. Room throughout, as we said, is good. Fuel economy is lacking, to be honest with you. This particular car with all-wheel drive is rated at 17 and 22 or 23. Sorry, I don't have it off the top of my head. It's one of those two. We have not got that. Not that we've been driving aggressively, nor have, as usual, we've been driving to maximize fuel economy. We, as in all of our tests, try to drive it as people who would buy the car would try to drive it, or normally would drive it. So just as your average person would, we believe, anyways. We're seeing about 17 to 18, 17 probably in mixed driving. A couple highway runs have us at 20 and some change, 21 in a brief area where we were going about 60, 65. Now, it is winter, it's colder, we've got crap fuel here in Michigan for the winter. It's still on the winter blend fuel, so that will contribute to some of that. However, it's not surprising the fuel economy when you consider just how heavy this vehicle is at about 54 or 5,500 pounds. That's a lot of weight to move around. The fact that this V6 does move this Traverse around at a good clip, that says a lot for the drivetrain. And I have to say, how they've got it geared for the highway is quite good as well. We have looked a couple times, and we purposely set the cruise at 80 and looked at the tachometer, and it was just a couple ticks over 2,000 RPM. Well, that's really good. So that should contribute. It should contribute to helping fuel economy, and also why it is so quiet at highway speeds. The motor's not even really working hard when the red line on this is probably north of 6,000 RPM. So that's well done Chevrolet on that, and well done GM on that. As far as actual space in this, well, we've folded down the back seats because we had to haul the dog to the vet, and the captain's chairs illustrate one of the issues that you have in trying to have a flat load floor, and that there's a huge gap there in the middle, and there's nothing you can do about it. So the dog was relatively happy back there, and we'll roll in a couple pictures of Lola as we took her to the vet, and you can see her back there. She had plenty of room, but it wasn't a big flat load floor like in others. Now, if it had the bench seat across the middle, that would be a different issue. With the third row up, there's not a ton of space back there. There's certainly, as far as cargo capacity, there's a decent amount of space. It's about a grocery bag wide and maybe a little bit more, but not a lot more than that. And the width is the width. Roll that third row down, and obviously you increase your capacity by quite a bit. Now, let's talk about the interior. There are a few things that are pretty glaring about this. First and foremost is the materials used. Not only on the seat, which is supposed to be leather. It's a pretty weak leather if you ask me, but okay. The materials on the dash and inside are very plasticky, grained, not well, and mismatched stitching, glaringly mismatched stitching, in that on the doors there's white stitching, not real stitching, of course. It's theoretic. I don't know. It doesn't look good. But on the dash, it's blue. Blue. You got to help me on this one. Why would you have blue and then white? That makes zero sense. So not only do we have materials that are lacking in quality on the dash and a lot of the touch points, very hard plastic in a couple touch points, but you have mismatched stitching. It just looks bad. You got me on that one. We have our hydro-dipped plastic in here to give the illusion of wood trim. It looks good. I'll give them that, but it's very obvious as soon as you touch it that there's no wood underneath. It's purely a film of plastic that's over the top of it, so that it's in a sense water dipped into the process. Hydro dipping, I believe, is the appropriate term for that. So, like I said, looks okay. It's couple other things that are you really have to do an RTFM is the heated seats in here. Now, for about 3 days, we were trying to figure out what if the seats were broken, if the heated seats were broken or something was weird going on. On the button, there's a button to turn them on, up and down. One is a picture of sunshine, and then the other has airflow going through the seats. Now, my thinking is, sunshine, that must be heat, and then where you have the airflow, that must be cooling. Nope, not at all. In fact, it's backwards. So if you turn on the sunshine, it actually cools the seat, and if you turn on the airflow, it actually heats the seat. I don't know. We didn't RTFM, we just sort of played with it, but that is definitely an RTFM moment. So that's a little funky. Now, flip side is that the telematics system on here is actually really good. It's responsive. It's accurate. In fact, when you touch it, everything activates. The voice commands work well. That is really well done. And I have to say, we had a brief experience with it when we had the Buick in just for a couple days, and unfortunately we didn't get to film it because it was basically snowing the entire time we had it. And we liked it then, and we really like how they do it. In fact, we like how they do it better than to me, it's a better system than the Ford system. So that's that's a props to GM on that. It has Pandora and it has Stitcher built in, so if your smartphone has either of those services, it works perfectly. No problems at all with it. So we've been using both, and has worked well. XM, it's well designed and works well, and we have no complaints about it. MyLink, that is the name for the service that Chevrolet has here. So to wrap it up, the Chevy Traverse it's a really good and solid family truckster vehicle. It's disappointing in the interior because of the quality of the materials that are used. They are certainly nowhere near what you would expect on a $46,000 vehicle. In fact, I would have trouble accepting them in a $35,000 vehicle. We had a Hyundai Santa Fe in the Sport, and that is a $35,000, $36,000 top level trim model that we had in, and the interior in that was 100 times better than this. The quality materials used in the Ford Flex were much better than this. So Chevy Traverse, if you care about the interior, you're going to want to look elsewhere. If the interior is just something that you want to be hard, easy to clean, and durable because you have kids and it's going to be hard abused, well then maybe this is the vehicle you need to look at, because while it's not our favorite interior, it looks like it'll last a while.